Hey everybody, this is Professor Cole with you once again. Today we're going to be talking about adding development to your essay, specifically how to meet word and page requirements without resorting to padding. Now, a lot of you out there have to write papers that have minimum word and page requirements. You may find that difficult, or you may be tempted to add just filler or repeat ideas over and over again. And that's not something we want to do. We want to avoid that. So hopefully the suggestions I give you today will help you deal with these page and word requirements more effectively and produce a better paper. So how often have you experienced this? You have to write, say, a 6-page essay for a class, and you get to page 3 and you just run out of things to say. You can't think of any other ideas, and seemingly you've exhausted the topic and there's just nothing else that's going to come out of you. A lot of people experience the same difficulty. Usually this is because of a lack of development, a problem with development. And as I use development here, it means the collection of details, examples, and explanations that help your readers better understand the material in your essay. A lack of this development, besides leaving your essay short, leads to vague, overly brief writing that fails to adequately explore and examine a particular idea or topic. Now, in some genres of writing, this thorough exploration isn't really as valued as it is in academia, but academic audiences really want to see that you can investigate and analyze a particular topic deeply. They want to see that, whether it's through evidence, details, what have you. So you don't want to be vague, you don't want to be too brief, you want to make sure you show your instructor and your audience that you can critically think about the topic at hand. So how do we do this? How do we overcome development problems? Well, we're going to look at two methods today. The first is providing substantial and relevant detail, and the second is fully investigating and or explaining a concept's complexities. Now, there are several other techniques to overcome development problems, but I think these are two of the most significant. So hopefully this will help you a great deal. I do, of course, explore other techniques in my book, Better Writing Beyond Periods and Commas. But again, if you can master just these two up on the screen, it'll go a long way in helping you meet those page and word requirements. So the first method, which is providing substantial and relevant detail, is basically about choosing specific details over vague generalizations. And I think the best way to just illustrate this for you is through these two paragraphs on your screen. On the left we have a paragraph that is full of vague generalizations, and on the right we have one that contains a lot more specific details. And just by looking at them, before you even read them, you can see that the one on the right is much more substantial. And therefore, if you have substantial paragraph after substantial paragraph, you're going to meet those word and page requirements. But let's read the one on the left so you can see the difference. So, steroid use in professional sports has reached epidemic levels. There have been so many athletes accused of steroid abuse in recent years that many people are calling for harsher punishments for those discovered. Juicing up. If this issue isn't resolved soon, professional sports will continue to suffer problems. It's not bad, but there's nothing really specific there, and there's missed opportunities for examples to illustrate our meaning. So let's look at the right-hand one. There's just a few differences, but they make a huge difference. So steroid use in professional sports has reached epidemic levels, just like the last one. There have been so many athletes accused of steroid abuse in recent years that many people are calling for harsher punishments for those discovered juicing up. For example, here's where it differs. Some critics have suggested that athletes convicted of steroid abuse should be banned from their sports of choice, while others have demanded the retraction of such an athlete's trophies and records. See, that's an example. It shows us specifically what those harsher punishments could look like. If this issue isn't resolved soon, professional sports will continue to suffer problems. And here's another specific detail. What kind of problems? Well, problems including a dramatic loss of credibility in the eyes of fans and the world. So again, just with a couple additions, we've made a huge difference in what was a very vague paragraph and a very short paragraph. And this is what we want to do throughout our essay. So besides offering specific details, we also want to investigate and explain the complexities of the issue. Okay, most of these topics are very, very complex, and you could really show that you have skill with critical thinking, or even develop critical thinking yourself by examining these complexities. Alright, so if you're having trouble coming up with ideas, consider some of these issues, like any debates about the topic, the possible consequences of inaction or action concerning the issue, the importance of the topic in the quote-unquote bigger picture, or include little anecdotes to help illustrate the topic. Oftentimes I tell my students that you really need to show your readers what you mean, not just tell them what you mean. And by show, of course, I don't mean include actual pictures, but include little stories, little anecdotes, little examples that really cement the idea in a reader's mind, that paint a picture in the reader's mind so they can really understand what you're saying. Okay. If you're writing a paper on the aforementioned topic of steroid abuse, you might investigate any or all of those following complexities. So maybe you want to examine the difficulties with the enforcement of laws concerning it, challenges in detecting it, disagreements about what the penalties should be, on and on, possible consequences for the sports organizations if they don't deal with it adequately, the influence of professional athletes on younger athletes, the relationship between steroid abuse and our overall culture of win at all costs. I mean, those are all avenues you can explore in your essay, good avenues. Again, they show that this is not a simplistic topic, it doesn't have simplistic solutions, and that it has far-reaching implications in our society and humanity at large. Now, if you remember from one of the previous slides, the introduction actually ended with a little bit about the calls for a resolution to the problem. So let's look at a possible follow-up paragraph, one that examines one of the complexities associated with the issue. So of course, calling for a resolution to this problem and overcoming the difficulties associated with it are quite different, especially regarding steroid detection and enforcement. With their careers in jeopardy, many professional athletes have become experts at concealing their use of steroids. So you can see this is a complexity. This is a difficulty within this larger topic that we need to examine and that our readers need to understand. And then to prove the point, the writer's actually going to include a source quote, okay, a quote from an expert. So according to Dr. Marcus Knight, an expert in drug testing, any and all tests have flaws. Chronic steroid abusers can and have found numerous ways to pass them on a regular basis. Okay. Dr. Knight also suggests that testing alone cannot dissuade chemical abuse. It must work in tandem with real and immediate consequences placed upon athletes by their respective leads, which can, lead us into the next paragraph, okay, where we examine another consequence or another complexity of this issue. So that's how you do it. One paragraph after another, examining complexities, all using specific details to add development. And what you're doing with this, besides meeting those page requirements, you're showing readers that you know something beyond common knowledge. Okay, that they can benefit from reading your essay because you have information for them. You're dealing with an interesting, very important social topic, and you've done research, you've thought critically about it, and they should actually read what you have to say, what you've written. Okay, that's very, very important. I hope you found that helpful, guys. Again, if you want to go a little bit further in improving your writing, you can always pick up my book from Amazon or at most major bookstores. The book is Better Writing Beyond Periods and Commas. And really, we tackle issues like this that go way beyond grammar and punctuation. And trust me, there are plenty of them. So thank you for your attention, and feel free to peruse any of the other videos on my channel as they appear. Thanks.